Hey. Hello. You guys good? He's like, yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Thanks for coming.
So you're here to see Flying Lotus, whose real name is Stephen Ellison.
Hey.
Uh,
I'm not playing any music, by the way. So if you're here to watch me DJ or some shit, you can leave. I'm not doing that shit now. Is that Havana Joe back there? Somebody black.
This week marks the release of Until the Quiet Comes, Flying Lotus's fourth album. It's fourth also on the pioneering originally British electronic label Warp. It's also on his own label Brainfeeder, one of the most important American electronic music labels.
Wow. Well, shit.
As you probably know, Flying Lotus's work is complex, often orchestral arrangements. His songs are usually densely constructed, sometimes consisting of up to 80 layers of different tracks, painstakingly compiled and assembled on a laptop. They blend skittering machine beats with musicians who play harp, bass, strings. Flying Lotus's music is a marriage of 21st century technology and 1960s West Coast psychedelic experimentation, sounding at times like a futuristic take on free jazz. Now this, okay. So your previous record, Cosmogramma, was almost an out-and-out jazz record, but the new album, Until the Quiet Comes, seems to move a little away from that. Can you tell me how that came about?
Yeah. Initially, when I first started to make this record, I'll go even before that. When I was finishing Cosmogramma, I really felt like there was a lot of elements around that were making the release special. You know, I did the LA album, and you know, I think that it did really well, and you know, there was some anticipation, and I knew that I was working on something that was way different than that, and I just, you know, with everything that was going on in my personal life, and also the music scene as well, I just felt like the timing of it was really special too. A lot of things that made that album really special. So when I started working on this album, I was like, oh man, they're gonna fucking hate whatever I do next. No matter what I do, they're gonna fucking hate it. So that was like in the back of my mind, you know, like for a long time, it was like, you know, while I was working on the Thundercat album, Thundercat's in the house, by the way. When I was working on that record, I was just really, I was going through my own fucked up headspace, just trying to put it all together. But I started to think like, okay, well, as long as I don't come from that same approach, you know, come from that same thrust, it might work in my favor, you know. And I really tried to just soak up different influences and try to do a different approach. And you know, I say, okay, well, all the things about Cosmogramma that made that what it was, let me try and flip that, you know. So it was really outward and really big, and I had this kind of grandiose concept with the thing. I was like, all right, well, let me make the record that was really inward and really, you know, really mellow, and try and like strip moments back a little bit, and then build these kind of crescendos and see how that would be, you know.
When we spoke after preceding the release of Cosmogramma, and you described that record to me as a space epic. How would you describe Until the Quiet Comes?
An inward epic. Not the N-word epic, but an inward epic. This is the way you can make that sound good.
The act of dreaming, or dreamlike states, seems to be a really important theme throughout the record. You've got the DMT song. Can you talk a little about
I can.
About dream. About
Fuck, it got hot suddenly. Sorry.
Can you talk a little about the importance of dreaming and the idea of dreaming as appears on the record and in your work?
When I was 16, I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was my little desk chair that I had was facing me, and I had a little futon. I don't want to have a big bed in my room. I had a little futon, and I had the futon was facing outward, and then there was a chair that was facing toward me. It was really strange. But when I woke up, I saw a shadow man in the chair, and he was just chilling there. He wasn't looking at me. He was just chilling. And then he saw me see it. He was like, and he ran out the room. He just ran out the room. And like ever since then, man, shit has not been the same. Like seriously. And that was one of those things where you're like, oh, yeah, well, you was just sleeping. Dude, I must have chased after that fucking thing, like, immediately afterward. And I chased him into my mom's room, woke my mom up. She's like, what are you doing? Like, who's this? And I couldn't explain it. And I would, I never really mentioned that too much because people were like, oh, I don't know. But years later, I started talking about it. I started talking about it to people, and they're like, oh, well, that means you were, in like some kind of astral projection, lucid dream, out of body experience, and you brought something into this dimension. It sounds crazy, right? And, ever since I started exploring that, I got way, way more powerful in my dreaming. I started having more lucid dreams. And, a lot of those experiences, man, they were just like, they're so moving, to be able to, realize you're in a dream and create new worlds, and the first thing I start doing, I start flying, where the name comes from. So I start flying, and then I look over and see cities and see these cities just build as I get them in my plane of view, man. And, just, I don't know, there's something about it that is just, it's so magical, in this time where there's not a lot of magic left. It's like that experience is really special to me, and like being able to do that. So I get to do that once a month, maybe, and it's playing in that space is just really, it's just fun for me.
When you describe that, you almost I could sort of.
We started off like that. Damn, we got deep real quick.
I can visualize almost the Winsor McCay comic from the turn of the 20th century, Little Nemo in Slumberland.
That's it. He nailed it. See, I made the record for you. You get it. Track number 4. 1, 2, 3. It was track 3. Until the Colors Come. That's exactly what that is. It's like me in a floating bathtub over the city, and you hear all these little sounds. That's like the little bubbles from the bathtub, like floating out like a little propeller sounds and shit. That's just what I saw. But you did it. You got it.
My colleague, Andy Beta, described the record in Spin last week, saying, Until the Quiet Comes feels like the album version of Inception. Dreams within dreams within dreams.
I hope that doesn't come with a shitty snow sequence that has the James Bond shit. I love things about that movie. I hate a lot of things about that movie. First thing I say was, my dreams don't work like that. My dreams don't work like that. My dreams don't work like that. And then, but, at the end, it's like, well, at least they brought some ideas, and you can't get too mad about it. But, all right, thank you. Thanks, buddy. I like Inception stuff. A dream within a dream, though. I get it. I feel that.
How important is film to your work? I mean, you studied film at the San Francisco Academy of Art.
Film was the thing that I thought I was going to get into. I had dreams of being a director, filmmaker, when I was 17. And before that, I was making music. And I thought that, oh, man, nothing's going to work in music for me. No one cares about this shit. So I'm going to do film where I'm going to make something that someone's going to care about. And it's like, that is actually the hardest art form to make a living in, probably. So I you know I just I really thought that I go to school and if it doesn't work out I could just be a grip or something like that, working on the set, do something. But in school I kind of fell in love with producing again, and I just dropped out. But it's big to me, man. I really want to get involved in doing music for film eventually. But for me personally, it's like when I put these albums together, when I put tracks together, there's always visuals that come to mind, and I really do try to take a cinematic kind of narrative in the whole album. I try to think about like the hero's journey, where you're like, ordinary world, and you're like cast out into some crazy adventure, and that's what I want it to feel like when you hear my music.
Well, hopefully people have seen. There's a really striking short film called "Until the Quiet Comes" by Khalil Joseph. Can you talk a little about that?
Oh man, I wish we could show that. Dang. Yeah. When we started putting this record together, I knew that I wanted to have a very heavy visual campaign to go with this thing, because I really wanted to get people immersed in the universe that I was creating. So initially, the idea was I was going to ask a lot of my film friends to make really short vignettes for the album, and we do one for every track. And I had guys like Edgar Wright trying to do something, like Gaspar Noé. I hit Gaspar Noé. I like begged this guy, please make me like a 30-second short, all this stuff. And some people were like, oh, I could do it. Some people were like, oh man, I'm too busy. I'm like, you too busy for 30 seconds, begging. But in the end, I ended up collaborating with Khalil Joseph, who I had been meaning to collaborate with for a long time. He did a couple shorts for the group Shabazz Palaces previously, and I loved that stuff, and I thought he really tapped into the universe that they were creating with their music, and I was thinking he could do the same for me. I was really weird about it at first, because he was talking about shooting in LA and all this stuff. I'm like, oh man, please not LA. Let's do it anywhere else, because we've all seen LA so many times. You guys are like so over seeing LA and everything, every movie that comes out is like LA. So I was like, no LA. But the way he did it, it really flipped it and really just changed it a little bit, and I really appreciate it. And then in the end, I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad it took place in LA, because you're seeing LA in a way we hadn't before. So if you hadn't seen the Until the Quiet Comes short film, you can check it out on YouTube or whatnot. Y'all see that shit yet? Oh, cool.
I mean, it's such a striking vision of LA. I mean, there's part of it that reminds me a little of like a lurid Technicolor version of Charles Burnett's Killer of Sheep.
Yeah, that's his shit though.
And then part of it seems like a Dr. Dre video from another planet.
Right. Yeah. Meets Tree of Life. Terrence Malick shit. Hood Malick is what I call him.
Now you've got, with Brainfeeder, is there any particular aesthetic that unites you to the other artists that are on Brainfeeder? You've got a really disparate number of artists who are on there. Jeremiah J, Strange Loop, Teebs, Lorne, Martin from the Netherlands, Gaslamp Killer, who's got a really great new album out, also coming out now, called Breakthrough.
Yeah.
Is there anything, a particular aesthetic that unites you, or something that you hear when you're looking at new artists?
I just want to believe people. At the end of the day, when I hear it, I want to believe it. I want to hear that people are trying to find something within themselves through their music. I want to hear that. I think that it's one of those things you don't have to be a music scholar to know this. We know when you hear it that someone is really trying to make sense of this existence with their music. And that's always what I check for first. If I can go to that place there, I can hear or even see that someone is trying to create their own little universe with their work, and it's really engaging for me, and I really I'm into that, you know.
How important is jazz to the music you make? I mean, people may know you come from a very musical family. Your grandmother was a songwriter for Motown. Your great aunt was Alice Coltrane, the very accomplished harpist and wife of John Coltrane. And her album Lord of Lords, you mentioned, was a huge influence on Cosmogramma.
The jazz element is something I can't really get away from, you know, and it's not necessarily a sound. It's more so a mindset, I think, that goes into it. It's like, you know, I like the music making process to feel organic and raw and not overthought. And, you know, when I work with Thundercat, you know, we do things, we don't like overthink anything. It's always like, well, how are we feeling? Let's do this, you know, whatever it just comes out, you know. So I feel connected to that same headspace of, you know, we're being in a room with one microphone and, you know, a bunch of people and you know, some weed and no ideas, you know what I mean? People got skills, and that's what they come out with, that, you know. But as far as like the jazz in a traditional sense of the sound, it's, you know, it is what it is, you know. On one end, yeah, it's definitely inspiring, but, you know, there's not too many great jazz records made in the 2000s, are there?
I can think of a couple, but I won't.
There's a few, not many.
How important is improvisation in the work that you do? I mean, you're working with electronic, with laptops and digital gear, where there's often not as much improvisation, at least live.
Absolutely, yeah. And when there's the live recording aspect of it, you know, and when it comes to the programming of the music, I play everything in, you know. I don't just like click stuff in, you know. I play everything in, and, you know, again, I really do try to find the best things within an organic situation, you know, and no overthinking. When it becomes like an hour and I haven't really found it, I'll just stop working, you know. It's just, it has to flow. All the best stuff comes out really fast. I can think of a lot of songs that Thundercat and I start and never finish, you know, but the bare bones of it comes out within 15 minutes of us sitting together and not even talking, you know. So, I don't know.
What are you doing exactly when you're playing live? I've seen you a number of times, and you're bobbing like a marionette in zero gravity over your gear.
Yeah.
You're working with a laptop, and is there a turntable or
no,
keyboarded?
I use Ableton and controllers when I play, and that's another part of the improvisational aspect. Because when I play, you know, I don't really know where we're going ever. You know, I there's moments where, okay, we can start off this way, but after the first few minutes, I don't know. You know, it's up to the people, really. For me, I like to let the people decide where we're going. If you guys are crazy, I'm gonna get with you. You know, if you guys are mellow and just standing there, I'll try and get on that level. You know, but I love that. I love the fact that anything can happen at any moment. I could just fuck up the whole night. I love that. I thrive off that, dude. It gives me a pulse. I'm nervous as shit every time I play. I'm nervous as shit right now. It's like, but it gives me that thing. I don't know. I invite it.
The former BBC Radio 1 presenter, Marianne Hobbs, said of you, in the same way that Jimi Hendrix was completely reinventing what you could do with a guitar, Lotus is reinventing what you can do with electronic tools. How has that quote haunted you?
It's very sweet. That's all I say about that.
Has the increased attention and critical favor that has come since your album Los Angeles and Cosmogramma, has that affected you in the way you work at all?
Absolutely. You know, and more, I like can't get people's voices out of my head when I'm working at the machine. You know, like, oh man, shit don't sound like this. I gotta do it like this. But man, they don't like when I did this shit. Well, they like that. Maybe I'll do that. Man, fuck everybody. I'll do what the fuck I want to do. This, you know, it's like I go through that whole shit every day, you know. And like every day I have to remind myself that like the only reason why I'm here is because I do what I want to do. I don't do what I think they want me to do. And I really genuinely believe that they don't want me to do what they want me to do. Seriously. I genuinely believe that. I'm just going to keep believing it. So don't you tell me no different. So.
How has that affected your ability to remix stuff on the fly? I know you used to do your own mixes and just post them on the internet, and how has your sort of the increasing attention changed that in any way, or has it?
Yeah, that part of it, that makes it a little difficult to just like, fuck around. So like anytime I sit in the chair, I'm like, I'm working now. It's like, I can't be like, I'll just sit in the chair, make a little drum loop, put it on the internet. Can't do that. Because they'll be like, oh man, Blind Lotus, he got 30 South drums now. He's sold out. He's gonna do this, he's gonna do that. Be like, dude, I'm just making some shit for fun. You know what I mean? I did a Frank Ocean remix called Binge Eating Without You. That was actually the Thinking About You thing, whatever. And I never finished it. And it was one of those things like with remixes, they're not so inspiring to me. It's cool. I don't like doing them that much anymore. But one night I was kind of drunk and I was like, oh shit, I'm just fucking post this unfinished shit. I don't give a fuck. It's never gonna come out. And it was like everywhere the next day. It was like on every blog that you could think of, man. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. I was just like, I'm leaving online for like a few hours, but after that shit is coming down, Because it's like people really, I don't know. That part of it that you're talking about, it's different now,
Has you've done a lot of collaborations? Has that actually helped your ability to reach out to people? I know you've got Erykah Badu on the new album, and how did that come about?
Collaborations are cool. A lot of times I think they sound better written on a blog than what you actually get in the end result. But when they are good, when the connection and the chemistry is right, then it's always great because you never really know where it's gonna go. When I work with Thundercat, I still don't know to this point like where we're going. He could bring out, come through with some shit like, oh, wow, and you never really would have thought that, and I invite that now. For a long time when I was producing earlier, I was just like really in the idea of just I'm doing everything by myself in my little room with my little computer, and that's cool, not dissing. But I thought like once I started working with him, I started opening up more to working with people, working with different musicians because they bring in that element of surprise and the unknown to the work, and it's cool. Like one take will sound one way and this other take will sound this other way, and he's like, oh well, what if I stitch these things? And it becomes something that I couldn't just imagine on my own. Working with Badu, that happened because this guy is in her band, and he probably played her the album that I produced along with him. And, I think shortly after that, she was like hitting me up on Twitter and whatnot and talking about making an album together and all that shit.
Is that still a plan, or?
I would do it. I'm down. Everyone's busy. I'd do it, I'd love to, but I don't really know. It's on her. The ball's in her court.
Another artist that you've worked with a number of times now is Tom York. He's appeared on the last record. I know he came out to Low End Theory, which is the it's monthly or weekly night in L.A. that you were a resident at, or you've been a resident at.
Guest resident.
Guest resident.
Yeah.
How did your collaboration with him come about?
Originally, it started off as just me saying I was a fan, and I think Marianne Hobbs, she put us in touch, and he'd actually been a fan of what I was doing, and he was like, well, he likes what I do? No way. But dude is like really, he's real hip, man. He's really hip to like a lot of the music that's happening. He's ahead, he's really into the electronic stuff as he's a producer himself. So, it was really flattering for me to find that out that he was into it. But when I came to know the dude, it took me a while to get over it because I grew up on Radiohead, man. I grew up with that shit, and I it's funny, like still to this day, I've never really talked to him about the work that he's done. We always talk about really random shit when we hang out. I was like talking about like what? Just like, you know, the touring shit, touring life and girls and stuff like that, being depressed and shit. You know, we talk about that. I never talked to him about like, so what did you mean when you like did Pyramid Song? Because, you know, I love the textures in there. So what does it all mean, Tom? I never do that. I always want to, but I never do. I always forget. But yeah, I mean, the way we connect is interesting. Is we still haven't worked in the same studio. It's always been the kind of thing where it's like, I'll send him some music just on some cool shit, just like, hey man, this is what's happening, this is what I'm making, this is what I'm listening to, you know, and he does the same to me. And you know, one day he was like, what's up with this track? I was like, well, I was thinking about putting on my album. You want to do something? He's like, yeah, I'll send you some shit. Sends me some shit. Months later, like the last possible second to send me some music, like, you know, and then I just do my thing. But you know, when it comes to putting the shit together, it's like, I think the reason why he fucks with me is because I'll mess with his voice and like trip it out a little, and I think it might take some pressure off his other work by working with other producers and whatnot.
Cause he in Electric Candyman, the track on Until the Quiet Comes, I couldn't tell that was Tom York at all. You'd done whatever you'd done to it.
That's all I can hear though. Like, I don't know. Like when I hear it, it's just like, oh, that's so Tom, just being like moody, you know. But it's like I could see that, but it's not really my concern to be like. I think even last time too, when I remember what I played. When I sent the track to the label, it was like they heard Tom York was gonna be on the album. They were like, "Oh, okay." It's not really a banger, is it? Like, no. I'm not really. It's not about that. It's not about me making Tom sound good. I'm trying to make him fit into the world that I'm making with the shit, you know. So that's probably why, you know. When I hear it, it's like I can only hear it the way I thought it would sound right with the track. It's a producer thing, I guess, you know.
So we're gonna open it up now for some questions from the audience.
Fuck.
Raise your hand. We have a mic. We'll come to you. In the front row.
Front row. People.
I'll let you choose.
Happy birthday, first of all.
Thank you.
So I was at your show on Sunday, which was phenomenal. It was amazing.
Thanks.
And one of the things that really struck me was your, like, kind of the light aspect that you incorporated into your show. It was like you're like this astronaut and this like, it was amazing. And then you brought in this dancer that was like defying gravity.
Yeah, he's from the short film.
Yeah. It was totally different to see him live though. It was awesome. But I'd just like to know a little bit about your process and your like performance, because I didn't really expect that coming to the show.
See, that's good. But the thing about it, which was awesome, was I had no idea either. Is look, that night, right? We've never done that before, and this is the second time we actually did that visual show. So it was like we were all like, "Oh, this is all gonna work." Start working. I got to that moment where I was like, "All right, I think I'm gonna do the storyboard moment," and it was like, "I hope he's by the stage." And I didn't see him get on stage at all. And I'm like getting my shit in there. Like, all right, here we go. The beat's about to drop. I don't see him, but I'm going to drop this shit anyway. And then he like, did it. Oh, shit. You can like probably see me on a YouTube clip. Just be like, oh my God, thank God. It worked, you know. But, you know, it's all off the top. I really don't know where we're going. You know, I didn't know what he was going to do. I told him like, yo, man, if you want, you can just do that shit and go into the crowd. Just... That shit is dope, though. Anybody else want to talk?
Yeah, right over here to your right. To your right. That's you, man.
Hey.
What up?
So I was really here.
What is that on your shirt?
Me? Oh, Harry Otter. It's a Harry Potter joke. I bought it at the
You look like Batman from a distance.
I look like Batman?
Nah, bro.
Oh, man.
Nah.
All right. Anyway, so I was really excited to hear you talk about the shadow people, because that's something I've experienced in a completely sober state, and a state where I wasn't, you know, in the middle of waking up, like whether it be daytime, where I've seen them laugh, I've seen them move, and people usually think I'm crazy. So it's
I don't, bro.
Yeah,
I don't.
it's really
It
interesting.
was like
to-
Silhouette Man, right?
Yeah.
He was just like the shadow
Re-
dude.
it's somewhat transparent.
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
kind of a blur, and they usually just dart away.
Yeah.
Really far out stuff. Anyway, I had a question. Do you ever get inspired by things sonically that isn't music, whether it be like nature or just cars passing by? or
Yeah,
something?
absolutely. And it's something that I should do more, but I do love recording ambience and wherever in different environments. And with the technology, we could pretty much manipulate any kind of sound frequencies and make them work. I think that's a lot of fun. And changing up the sources. When I first got into producing, it was back in a time where there was a lot more rules. You couldn't do certain things. You had to sample from vinyl. Couldn't steal the drums off whatever record. You couldn't do. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna take everything. I'll steal your shit. I'll steal your shit. I'll take that break that you just got off YouTube. I'll do all that shit. I don't care anymore. But yeah, sample everything.
In the back to your left.
So earlier this summer on your Twitter, you said that Stereolab was going to be one of the biggest influences on the record. Could
Yeah.
you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, sure. I did the later parts of the album really more than any other inspired. I love Stereolab. I think that if you live in California, Los Angeles in particular, and the sun is always shining, and you listen to Stereolab, you're probably gonna have a better day because of it. But I really love that sound, man. I feel like they tapped into something that I love too with my music. And there's one track in particular that Only If You Wanna, I feel is like right off that, like the high of listening to that music. And, I think I did a remix for Stereolab that never came out. I think it's on the internet though, but I'm a fan. Always have been. Dots and loops,
Next one's over here to your right by the
Wall
wall.
hands.
So I've been a fan since 1983.
Are you a producer? Do you make music?
I don't.
You don't?
No. Do you want me to?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And you were talking about the different types of like worlds that you're creating with every album that you come out. So
Yeah.
could you, or have you even thought about where you've been and what worlds you've created since 1983, coming all the way up until the Quiet Comes?
Yeah. I mean, all of them to me, they have a story, and obviously they're pretty, biographical, and I really do. When it comes to making selections for the albums, this last record, Until the Quiet Comes, there was about 64 tracks in consideration for the album, and I had to narrow it down a little bit. And, but I try to choose the tracks that really mean something to me, and not just because I can get on the radio quicker or I can, do something for the clubs, whatever. I mean, that stuff is cool. I'm not knocking it at all. But I feel like for me personally, it feels good to be able to look back on my catalog and say, I've only put out things that really, really meant something, and there's a story for everything. There's a story for every track. And, some of the tracks that I did were maybe like 2 years old on this album. And I kept coming back. And I knew that that's why these had to come out, because they really do mean something. So if you want to talk specific stories for everything, I think I could, but it's like, I don't want to put my story on your experiences, like that's part of the fun with the instrumental music. You tell me what it's about.
Third row in the middle.
Who's that? You? Third row in the middle. All right.
Boom, I'll take it. I saw the first time I saw it was at the Bowl in L.A. and blew my mind.
Hollywood Bowl?
Hollywood Bowl, yeah.
Were you at Amoeba too?
No.
Okay.
Oh shit. Anyway, I was gonna say, what advice would you give to any aspiring musician, any artist, any art? Like, what do you got from what you've lived and what you've seen and what you've created? Some knowledge.
if you have that word aspire in your vocabulary, get rid of it. Just do things, make things, create things, experience things. And, if you are aspiring, if you're here and you're aspiring still, just quit. Just quit. Give it to the doers. Give it to the makers, the creators. Surround yourself with people who are pushing you and motivating you and inspiring you. Anybody who's not in that category, they could be eliminated from the situation, I think. I think that we all, as creative people, I imagine a lot of you are creative people. I see you. I see all y'all. As creative people, we just need to stay inspired at all costs. And when you have that external element that's not fueling that, it really it fucks with the gift, man. So I think any advice I can give is just stay around the people who nurture that creative energy within you, and you'll be all right.
Right back here to your right, over here.
Two things. I was at the show on Sunday. Thank you for Simon Says. I love that. That was great. The second thing, do you mostly create at home or mostly on tour? I know you tour a lot, so is there a balance of that, or are you guys working while you're on the go or at home?
Me personally, I don't really produce much while I'm away. When I'm away, I like to work on the show, try and figure things out with what I'm trying to play out. But when I'm at home, I pretty much get in my little studio zone and don't even think about the shows. So it's kind of that balance, I wish I was producing more on the road. I think it would be kind of fun, but it just, there's something about that space, and I know I got my shit dialed the way I need it to at home, and it could wait. It's fine. I could wait till I get in the chair.
Right in the front row in front of you.
Happy birthday.
Cheers, buddy.
And you use a lot of samples in your music.
Are you a producer?
Yeah.
How old are you?
14. And I was just wondering, you're talking about how in your dreams you see a world, and how your music is based on those dreams. How do you find samples that really express yourself? Because basically, if you're playing a guitar, I guess if you're feeling soulful, you play something soulful. But with samples, what do you look for in a sample? If you're feeling this way.
That was a good question. When it comes to sampling, it's funny because the way I approach it is probably different than some people will. I like to sample and not produce. I like to say okay, today I'm just gonna record. I'm gonna find things and record things and really try and get in the spirit of where I'm at. I'm like, oh man, well, I got all these DVDs over here, and then just I'll make a day of recording, and then there'll be a different day where I feel like assembling, and then I'll have all these new paints to paint with, and all these new things to work with, and then I can approach it, because I really hate when I'm itching to produce, and I don't have new sounds to play with, and just using the old drums. It's really nice to just have a bunch of stuff gathered, spend a bunch of time gathering, and then assemble later. But that's just me. I don't know.
Right back here on the wall to your right.
What's up? I was wondering if you got inspiration from modern artists, and if you had a vinyl collection, and if you wanted any of these vinyls that I have.
Do I know you? You look familiar. Yeah, I love modern music more so than I have in a while. I feel like there's a lot of really dope shit happening right now musically, and lots of cool crews. Even New York is coming back heavy right now. I think musically, really inspiring. Will I take your vinyl? Probably not. I appreciate it, but my suitcase ain't prepared for you. But maybe you could. No, you can't do that. You can email me some shit though.
Our next question's all the way to the back, to the left.
Hey, Amazing show on Sunday, by the way. Best
Thanks,
concert of
man.
my life.
Thanks, man.
I
had a good time, dude.
So did I. I read on one of your interviews, it said that you'd been listening to...
Don't believe any of that shit.
No. Oh, listen, wait. So that you've been listening to some Gentle Giant.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like, where, like, is there a spot that, like, we can hear the, like, influence of that on the new album, or is it just, like, a mindset in general, or...
There's a... I feel like I don't even want to tell you because it's like, I feel it's kind of obvious. But the DMT song, specifically, I feel like, you know, the way we approached a lot of that, the harmonies in that, are, you know, very Gentle Giant-esque. But, you know, it's like, you don't necessarily have to, like, rip it. You just have that, like, oh, it'd be cool to just, like, break up sections that, you know. But, yeah, I think earlier this year, they just had me by the balls. I love Gentle Giant, you know, and, whatever. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Right back here to your right.
Hey, I caught a tip of yours on Twitter a while ago about the movie called Beyond the Black Rainbow.
Yeah.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you could talk about some of your favorite movies from the last year.
Oh, well, that was definitely one of them. See, these list questions, they mean so much to me. I want to be able to put you guys onto some shit, like, on the spot. What did I like? Oh, did you guys see The Raid? You guys see The Raid? That shit is crazy. And it's not like, which, you know, the action movie. But, yo, you want to see a crazy-ass action movie that's probably, like, the most intense fighting sequences you've ever seen in your whole entire life? You go see The Raid immediately. That was dope. That movie was fucking dope. There was another one that I saw twice in the theater. Next question.
We have time for one last question.
Someone in the front row, because these guys have been holding their hands up.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Hey, man, thank you for making amazing, amazing music. I've been listening to you for so long. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, really, real talk. Yeah, I just got a question. So, like, when you're making your albums, like, chronologically, do you do it in a certain way because your tracks bleed together so beautifully and they often paint the picture that was nothing before the picture that was before that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, how often do you find yourself recording a song and then, you know, going all the way up the list, you know, like chronologically?
Well, I started adopting a different part of my production process. And, you know, I started thinking about it like, okay, well, like films have post-production, albums should have post-production too. And I guess that I didn't create nothing new with that. But I started, you know, trying to think of it all like a puzzle. You know, I did, here's an Apple endorsement. In my iTunes, what I do now, and this is a free tip for you guys, when I'm putting my albums together, what I like to do is I rate the tracks. I use the little rating system that they have. And I say if it's a 1, then it means it's just a loop, and it needs a lot of work. If it's a 5, it's finished. So like everything in between is kind of like you figure it out. So, you know, that kind of gives me an idea of how complete everything is, and as well as like, you know, how I'm gonna tie things together. But you know, the way it all sequences, it all kind of reveals itself to me as I'm working, you know, and to the last day of mastering, you know, it wasn't done, you know, like the first track of the album was the hardest, actually. This last one, it took me so long. I wanted to just not put it on there at all because I couldn't get the mix right. But you know, I just toil over this crap for so long, and you know, you know it when you feel it. I think your intuition will guide you.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have to go through the tracks. But it looks like there's a demand for
So we need-
DVD commentary going through the entire album. So
Yeah, sure.
Something to think about. Thanks everybody for coming out.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys.